Leanne and Daniel Cordner moved to North Queensland from Melbourne in search of a better climate for health reasons. When their girls Hayley and Adele arrived, sourcing quality food became a priority.
We could buy some really good meat from other producers, but we couldn't get good quality chook. So we actually romanced with the idea for quite a few years, maybe becoming chicken farmers, and never thought we'd get the chance.
Yeah, initially it was purchase the farm to do the chickens, and then once we sort of got here we thought, well, maybe now that we've got the cane we might stick with it for a little while and see if we can do the both at the same time.
Right now, as a chicken farm on its own, we probably couldn't get by, and as a sugarcane farm on its own, we couldn't get by. But we're looking at it to, I guess, try and stack our enterprises from the land. So we've got about 140 acres here. Way too small to survive as a cane farm on its own, but together with the chickens and a bit of agri-tourism and that sort of thing, yeah, we should be able to make a comfortable living.
Proud to share their story, Dan and Leanne hosted the first tour of their farm late last year, which included sampling produce they process on site.
There's a particular producer over in Western Australia that they've got their own on-farm abattoir, so Dan went over and spent a couple of weeks with them, I guess, sort of learning what they're doing and how they're doing it. A lot of just seeing, you know, who's the best and who's doing what in the country, and sort of trying to learn from them. Joel Sellerton, we sort of, you know, you went to one of his seminars and sort of learnt, I guess, and got, you know, quite a bit of inspiration from there, and then tried to apply some of that knowledge in this climate and this environment.
We tried some of the conventional meat birds on farm when we first came here, and just really didn't like the breed, how they behaved, how they responded in the heat, the phenomenal growth rate. So before we moved to the farm as well, we looked and really sought out, okay, who's doing the best? So who's producing the best chickens in Australia right now? And yeah, that's how we come across the Summer Lads.
Having no previous farming experience or even knowledge, there have been many challenges for the couple.
Whilst cane is just a grass, essentially, it still takes a fair bit in terms of the timing and your farming systems to grow the best cane. From the chicken side, getting the knowledge around managing a breeding flock, multiple genetic lines, food safety regulation, transportation regulations, designing, building and then operating our own abattoir. We did a lot of work with Michael Samalad, I guess the guy that created and registered the breed. So he consulted with us for a fair bit to come up with our feed ration that we give them. And also, whilst there's another 4 growers all around Australia growing the breed, ours will be unique in terms of its taste and its performance, just based on the pasture and the things they get to eat in the paddock. We plant about 10 different species of cover crop on our fallow, and they're all there to provide us with a diverse cover crop and diversity in plants for our fallow block, but they also provide a diverse range of nutrition and forages for the birds to eat. The system's almost getting back to a more natural system in a lot of ways, that you've got vegetation and growing plants and animals out there eating the plants and putting manure there, instead of the pure monoculture that cane tends to be. So
Hayley and Adele are still young, but actively engage with the chickens and are already keen to help.
They come along and join us for certain activities, morning feed runs, weekends and school holidays. They tend to help out a bit more. It's not the mad rush of getting kids ready for school. Particularly love it when the chicory and the sunflowers are in flower in the paddock. So you've got all these beautiful blue and yellow and black flowers everywhere.
You think you've got someone coming to help you do jobs, and then they just walk off and go pick flowers in the paddock and then come back, look what we've got. Or they just lay on the quad bike, are you finished yet? But I mean, look, you know, obviously with collecting eggs and things like that, they're able to do that. And going forward, once they get a little bit older, they'll be able to help with that as well. Yeah, we had a few chickens at one stage, and no matter what we couldn't get anywhere near them, and Hayley would just walk up and just pick them up, and they'd let her, and yes, but she's always finding something to pick up and carry around and check out.
Whether it be a frog or a lizard or a cocoon or all manner of things.
It seems many farmers are also keen to understand how the Cordners are managing both cane and animals.
Not many people are running livestock or any sort of animal in that system, so yeah, a hell of a lot of interest. We are doing a lot of other practices that catalyst growers have introduced us to as well. So we're manufacturing a lot of our own fertilisers and inputs, going to control traffic, wider row centres, But yeah, we get a lot of farmers coming out. Have you finished? Thank you. A lot of farmers coming out, seeing what we're doing, having a look at our, really interested in our cover crops as well, so the 10 or 12 different species we're planting, and intrigued how our farm will go with that extended fallow as well, and having animals in the system.
So I guess we've got a few different predators that we have to, well, a couple of things. One is containing the chickens, so that's what I guess the electric fence is to a degree. It keeps them within a certain area, so whether it be within the actual trial where we had certain areas that were grazed areas and some areas that were not grazed. Also to just keeping the dogs within that area as well. So they then protect against wild dogs, dingoes, goannas, snakes. They also protect against your overhead prey as well, so hawks, eagles. Some maremmas are better versed at the aerial protection than others, but yeah, they tag team and they work well together. So they definitely keep the other birds, so they recognise which birds are their birds, and if there's any other birds land into their area, if there's wild ducks or anything, they'll then scare those wild ducks off as well. So that helps with biosecurity as well, keeping the flock as a flock and keeping those predators out and minimising risk of disease.
An active free-range foraging bird that's getting moved regularly onto fresh pasture can handle all manner of diseases and not get too ill. So it's funny because when we first started on the farm, especially with the commercial birds, you get mortalities reasonably often. And probably about a year ago now, we set ourselves a measure of success would be if we didn't get a bird die in a week, which for a commercial chicken farm is just amazing to not have a mortality in a week. We rarely ever get a mortality in our birds now. Avian diseases, they're not a massive threat. With our breeding birds, yes, because we can't just replace those guys. So growers, if we were to have something go wrong and Biosecurity Queensland said you have to cull your flock, it's a bit of a risk. But if we were to lose our 140 breeders, I can't go and buy another 140 breeders. We're only 1 of 5 in the country, and some of the genetics are unique to us. Within the genetics of the birds, some of our birds have various heritage-looking genetics within them. One of those is a Transylvanian naked neck. These birds are really well suited to the tropics, so they've got almost no feathering on their necks and about 30% less feathering on their bodies. So in the middle of a tropical hot and humid day, they'll still be tearing around, scratching and foraging, whereas the traditional heavier set birds are inside staying in the shade to keep cool. A really good rooster, as you would have seen today, they're out walking around and basically they're there and they'll protect their hens. So they'll walk around the area, suss out what's happening, and even when it comes to feed time, they'll tend to strut around and make a fair bit of noise to let the hens know food's up, and they often won't eat until the girls have had a fair bit of food themselves. So looking after 15 girls and not eating very much, they lose condition and can lose condition and fertility quite quickly. So we've got a group of spare roosters or spare cocks ready to go, and you can never have too many spare cocks. And we make good use of them all. So
I can't believe you said that.
Putting all their eggs in one basket isn't really an option as they grow the chicken business, with only 140 acres under cane. This made it even more critical to process the meat themselves.
Diversification for us is critically important to I guess, guarantee a more consistent revenue for the business. If you're farming one commodity and one commodity only, you're susceptible to global price fluctuations, currency, exchange rates, and those sort of things could be crippling to a business. Whereas us having multiple income streams helps us ride out. So sugar prices have been quite bad in the last 6 to 12 months. Because we've got the chicken business and revenue coming through from the chooks, we're better able to ride that out. North Queensland and pretty much most of Queensland from maybe Sunshine Coast up, there's no small scale local producers. So the only way that we could possibly operate as a chicken farm was to set up our own facility. So it was a massive step and a huge risk as well, because we didn't have a guaranteed market for our meat birds. But we decided that's what we wanted to do. So I guess past life and past experiences and skills came into play, and we designed and built our own on-farm abattoir, all of the environmental management plans, food safety plans and everything that entails that. But yeah, from deciding we wanted to do something on farm to having a fully approved facility was 1.5 years. Look, seeing the finished product come through is immensely satisfying. Earlier this year I went to a conference in Daylesford to talk to other people that are interested in doing something similar, and even just seeing them and their interest, and it's immensely rewarding that we can be down there processing birds, kids can hop off the bus and come home. It just works well as a family unit. So processing days, yeah, Leanne, myself and another friend that comes along, and the three of us were down there from 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning until around about this time in the afternoon.
It's been hard work. It's been hard work to get it built. It's been hard work to get it approved, and a lot of the, just the processes and everything that we had to sort of figure out as we went along and how we were going to tick all the boxes. But yeah, it's certainly, it works well. It works really well.
Nothing goes to waste in this farming system, from the processed chickens sold beak to feet and even gourmet offal.
So all of the waste streams from the abattoir are composted or turned into a liquid fertiliser, so utilising all of that in our cane. We also make a fish hydrolysate, which is a liquid fish emulsion that we use for fertilising our cane, as well as a lot of biofertilisers that we do. So us and another few Project Catalyst growers invested in some capital equipment to help make these inputs a lot easier. So yeah, we're sharing with other growers, sharing knowledge and sharing capital. We picked up a produce award, so we won the Queensland category for the Delicious Produce Awards this year. So less than a year in operation, and we won a state award for our chickens. So yeah, certainly very proud of what we achieved and looking forward to what we can do in the future. I guess I said before, we've got 140 acres. We don't see that we own that 140 acres. We're really custodians of it for these guys. So in another 40, 50, whoever knows how many more years, we're not going to be here anymore, and we want to leave something better behind, better than when we found it, so that these guys have got a better farm to continue on with. So,
in December 2018, Cyclone Penny dumped 700 millimetres of rain overnight, flooding ground that would normally be high and dry. Daniel and Leanne lost 258 meat birds, with the Maremas only surviving due to their ability to swim. A further 10% of their breeding stock were killed by an overwhelming number of venomous snakes.